your mouth all glued up with Connie juice, I asked you a question.
Somebody put the butcher!
She is a prim-looking stargazer.
For all his faults, your father was a man who loved his people.
My face was pulp. My guts was pierced. My ribs was all mashed up.
Who's that?
Saint Michael.
Who is it?
Saint Michael.
And what did he do?
He cast Satan out of paradise.
Good afternoon. My name is Abe. Welcome to Jared to Jared. On this week's episode, the Jareds will discuss Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, East of Eden, Cultural Erasure, New York City, and much, much more. The die is cast.
Let's talk about New York.
Okay.
Just generally, and in the movie, of course, like,
right.
Because New York it's strange that place exists. You know, it's just so intense. It's so energetically rich. It's incredible. And why is New York, New York? You know, why isn't New York? I don't know. Why wasn't it Boston that became, you know, this like huge Northeast epicenter of culture? I mean, it is in a lot of ways, but like New York is New York. You know, it's like why there?
Right.
You know, like out here in the Southwest, people talk about vortexes and energy centers, you know, in Sedona and Santa Fe and whatever. Like, is that going on in New York? Is there something in the land that just it had to become what it is, you know?
I like what you're saying during the movie. You're like, imagine, I'd like to go back to New York before the cities and see if like the animals were extra crazy or like
exactly.
You know,
pre-European contact.
Wild, you know,
Did the natives there view Manhattan Island as this special revered place, or was it just another random island in the area?
Right.
You know,
right. Yeah. I mean, of course, the basic obvious reading would be it's a port town. You know, it was one of the first big cities, whatever the case.
So many waterways.
Right. And there was a lot of money in New York back in the day.
It was a strategic spot for whatever, all these things.
During Garfield's presidency, that was the ports of New York made up more money than like 60% of the whole entire U.S. freaking treasury. You know? Yeah. So the senator over there, Cochran, dude, was insane.
Right.
You know.
So was it just the waterways and being a port town that then accrued all this money, and then because there's money there's then artists and theater and all of that kind of growing around the money.
Right. Yeah.
And it just kept building until it became what it is.
And it's a mixture of cultures. You have, you know, Irish coming in, freaking Scottish eventually, all cultures basically.
Oh yeah, everyone goes through
and
New
then
York
if you figure like in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that was JFK was one of the first like international gigantic airports, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yes, then Airways as well.
Airways, get to build it, all that stuff, right? And it's also, geographically speaking, it's just, I don't know, it's crazy to think you're like on this island that is right there in the ocean, you know. And so many people are packed into this little tiny freaking you know, space of land.
It's like 4 times the population of New Mexico.
It's insane to me. To me, that's like seeing the Grand Canyon when I went to New York. I was like, this is fucking wild. I can't even see like dirt anywhere. I can't see a mountain.
How do they fit this many people? I can't
see anything. This is crazy, you know? And if you live there, I'm sure it's like, did you ever live in the city?
No, I never lived in the city. There were periods where I spent a lot of time there. Yeah. But never actually lived there. I mean, my grandma's place where my dad grew up was in Queens, which is New York City, but it's a little like, it's not suburban, but it's more heading towards the suburbs than like, you know, Manhattan's like the center of it all, right?
Yeah.
And then Brooklyn has, in the past few decades, has like got its own kind of ethos and aura about it.
Sure.
So a lot of time in Queens, and I would go into the city and hang out in the city and stuff, but never lived there though.
Yeah. Also the epicenter of American history. And then one thing we wanted to kind of discuss, hit on, was descendants of the Revolutionary War of 1812.
Right.
We get Prince Valen and Bill the Butcher and, you know, John C. Reilly and all them, you know. That's pretty prolific as well. You know, I wanted to look up what that generation is called. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's something to like the trauma of a birth of a nation.
Oh, yeah. A nation born in blood, right?
Highly influences, you know, the Federation of Natives. You know, that whole entire patriotism was literally bleeding into the psyche of a newborn nation back then. Yeah. And what's the year when the gangs in New York, like 1840s or something like that?
Yeah, it's supposed to take place. No, Civil War era, because it ends with the Civil War riots in New York.
Yeah, that's right.
The draft riots. Yeah, it was so the 1860s.
1860s. Yeah.
So I think 1863 was the riots. Yeah, right.
We're not very far from, you know. No,
the country's not even 100 years old yet.
Right. Exactly. You know. And when your like great grandfather, your grandfather all fought in war, you know, potentially your father, whatever. Yeah. Pretty insane. And then the Civil War is starting. Mm-hmm. So that amps the whole entire like village stir, you know. Yeah. Disorder is going on at this point. And New York is the center of that. That's another thing that gives the 5 points a boost in people like wanting to gain power there is because despite, you know, its economic state, it's still in New York. It's still a port town, you know, and has heavy influence on what happens in the country at large. Yeah.
God, that's interesting. And there is a cultural capital to New York. Right. Right. I remember I met this dude when I worked at Whole Foods in Albuquerque. I met this guy who worked in the kitchen there. And then I happened to run into him at Sister Bar, and he was working at Sister Bar. And he told me he actually took a pay cut to go work at Sister Bar, which, you know, for people listening, it's like a cool central location in downtown Albuquerque. And for him, the social and cultural capital of working at Sister Bar was worth taking a pay cut to leave Whole Foods and go work at SisterBar. Right. So for him, the cultural value was worth more than the monetary value. Right. And that's true of New York too, because these days there's plenty of people who move to New York knowing rent prices, knowing grocery prices, and just how totally ridiculous it is to survive in New York. But they're willing to try and make that happen. They will work multiple jobs just to have the experience of living in New York. Right. That's a very regular thing, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's this New York grind.
Massive cultural capital there, right? Yeah. I like that concept as well. Still this day, I have a friend that went and lived there, working in a coffee shop 60 hours a week to live with like 5 people.
That sounds terrible.
In Manhattan, yeah. And like not the best apartment apparently, but still though, she was in the city. It was worth it. It was like, that's another weird thing about New York is it's a life experience too. Yeah. You know,
does she value that experience? I don't know if there's someone you talk to much, but like,
I mean, she did at the time. I think she lives in Connecticut now.
Oh, cool.
But yeah.
Because I know my friends who live in New York, one friend in particular has been there like for years, and he just is a New Yorker. He'd be like a character in Seinfeld or something, you know, and he loves it. Yeah. And just like everything about it, he's just like, it just works for him. He fits into that. He also, I mean, actually, he did work really hard, but he was also kind of career driven too. So he was always working like a pretty decent job. Even if he was doing it 60 hours a week, it was a job that, you know, he was making something of him. So he wasn't working in a coffee shop for 60 hours a week. Yeah. But yeah, I get some people love it. Yeah. I remember talking to David O'Connor, who was in the creative writing program at UNM, and he lived in New York for a while, like in his 20s or something. And he said he was working like 3 jobs and just like partying all the time and sleeping like 3 hours a night. And he was like, it was insane and also really cool. As like, it sounds so manic. Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I couldn't do it. In fact, I was just telling Dion how much I want to move back out to the country one day.
Right.
I loved growing up out on Highway 14.
Yeah.
Just
cool.
like the peace and serenity you get when you get to finally drive to your house so far away.
Yeah.
But once you're there, it's like you could see all the stars, the sunset, everything's just more quiet. You know, you see wildlife and stuff. It's
totally.
And you have space. I want to see mountains, Gandalf. Yeah. Mountains. You know, you get to see them. You're fucking surrounded by them.
Definitely.
It's majestic.
It is incredible though. Like,
I don't want to see concrete and like, you know, hordes of people. I don't know. I think that would kind of like, I don't know, stress me out a little bit.
Yeah, it's different things. I mean, I went to high school with a friend who was terrified of the forest.
Right.
I mean, we grew up in New York. I mean, she was like, could not even like
crazy.
drive. Like, I remember we were all like, me and high school friends from years ago, we were like on a camping trip in upstate or something like that. And she was scared. She was like,
right.
actually anxious and uneasy being like surrounded by trees and stars.
Right.
Just like couldn't do it. She was like, where is everyone? It's spooky out here. And it's just like, and we're only like an hour north of the city. You know?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm thinking even like young Dalton would get really afraid at night out in the woods. You know, there is something spooky about the wood.
Oh, for sure.
But, you know, in this scenario, that's another discussion altogether. What makes the wood a little creepy.
Yeah, come back to that one.
But in this scenario, absolutely, freaking, you grow up in this metropolis. Going out into the woods with animals and stuff, if you're never around animals, it's freaking freaky, you know, especially, you know, anthropologically speaking, how we're all just naturally there. So if you're not raised in that situation.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of competency too, right? Like where do we feel competent? What spaces do we feel competent in?
Right.
Because you take a woodsman, I don't know, someone who grew up in like Montana or something, and they grew up on a farm. It's like that person's set of capabilities is such that they know how to thrive in a natural setting, right? And then you take that person and put them in a city, and they don't know how to survive there. They don't know how to act, how to speak, what to do, what to be, you know, in order to feel competent in that space. Right. And vice versa, you take someone from the city, and there are like city kids who just like are totally competent in the city, like know where to go, know what to do, know how to handle it. Right. It's like maybe there's a kid growing up in the projects or something, and it's like there's like gangsters and shit like that, like other people with guns, but it's like that doesn't really scare them because they know how to handle it. Right. But then if you put them in the woods, they're like freaked out because where's the competency?
And vice versa.
Yeah, that's exactly.
This is basically Tarzan. You know? You get a woodsman like me or something and throw me into New York, I'm going to be pretty spooked out.
Yeah.
Like taking the tram and shit like that. Like even taking the tram in Chicago last year.
See, no one calls it the tram. You're already lost.
Yeah. I'm getting jumped immediately. Freaky, man, you know, but it wasn't. It was fine and just like, you know, whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't know where to go. I'd be so scared, you know.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, so there's a level of competency.
Would probably find trouble somehow, just like this freaking New Mexican with his "Hug My Homie" shirt. Like,
well, New York's actually one of the safest places in the world.
That's true.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Yeah, but yeah, so there's that. What do you think? What do you think of the 5 points? The name, the 5 points. Is there symbolic significance there?
Oh, sure.
It was a historical location. It's not around anymore, but it was a historical location. But the 5 points, like what comes to mind?
Right.
Symbolically or metaphorically there.
What's the line Butcher says when he's like, the 5 points, when I close my hand,
it's a fist. Yeah, the 5 fingers of the hand makes a fist.
Right. The body politic. That's what this is making me think of.
There you go. Yeah.
Coriolanus, freaking Shakespeare. It's literally a body, a political system, a city. And the only way Rome, right, and he was talking about in the play, worked was through a body politic. You know, the people are one piece of the body, the senators are one piece of the body, this and that. And when a piece of the body is chopped off, you know, then you don't run as well anymore. It's not, you know, as efficiently, you know, productive and good for the human, you know, good for the citizen, right?
Yeah.
So the 5 points are part of a body,
right?
A hand, you know, and you cut
4
off
limbs and a head,
right? Yeah. Fingers of the hand or the fist or whatever, while then the nation at large will suffer. You know, so I don't know. There's something there with the body politic.
There is, It's literally human body. There's the hand. I think of a star, a 5-pointed star, which if you turn that upside down, it's the satanic pentacle, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there is a lot of satanic imagery in that, right? Yeah.
Dr. Faustus, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different satanic imagery in there.
Right.
Where there's a scene where Amsterdam, Leo, he goes to talk to Bill the Butcher, and then when he's leaving, there's just this like puppet marionette devil just like hanging in the doorway or something like that right next to him, right? This light versus dark, good versus evil thing comes through a lot in that.
Right. 100%. That made me think of culture. Wanted to touch on culture just for a second. Back then in the 1860s.
Yeah.
I like how I used a certain word, but ritualistic, you know, for lack of better words, culture was back then. Like I really like the like dance scene where she like picks the guy, you know. And they're like, everyone's holding candles and like dancing and all that stuff. This was a culture without phones, internet, whatever. It was just like very like, I don't know. There was like traditional, you know, things that we would do back then. The like Americana was beautiful. And one other good thing about that was there was music playing all the time.
I love that part of Gangs of New York.
You know, freaking awesome. People singing, just like Irishmen on the guitar and freaking shredding, you know. I don't know. Thoughts on 1860s culture? What have we lost? You know, do we still have those rituals? Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So definitely just want to highlight, like you said, the music. I love the music in the background.
Right.
Except for in the beginning, it's like some weird Matrix music. And then in the very end.
Totally pulls you out of the whole movie. Yeah.
But then throughout the movie is all these old folk tunes and like old Irish folk tunes and stuff like that.
Right.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes me think too, because it's a story of immigrants and you can't really talk about the story of immigration to America without talking about cultural erasure. Because the way America works, at least implicitly and oftentimes explicitly, is leave your culture at the door.
Right.
You know, and that's even how one would buy into whiteness and gain some sort of privilege within the system is by eradicating their culture, right? Dropping any kind of accent, dropping any kind of symbol of difference. Right. Cultural symbol of difference. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting crossroads there because you see Priest Vallon, right, who comes in and he's very Irish and all these Irish people on the 5 points. Right. And he's got St. Michael around his neck and all this stuff, right? Irish Catholic, like very culturally rich. And then you see young Val in Amsterdam, who's born in America. And then you actually see his story does become representative of this larger movement of cultural erasure, right? Because he starts to cozy up to Bill the Butcher, right? And he's doing so with the intention of getting close to him so that he can kill him.
Right.
However, Leo Amsterdam, he then starts to enjoy that privilege a little too much, right? He's eating well. He's hanging out with Cameron Diaz. He's gaining and accruing some kind of power, some kind of recognition within the 5 points, right? Within the town. The 5 points also makes me think of the stars on the American flag. That's another connection. But anyway, he starts to get kind of too comfortable, and then he stops looking Irish. He stops looking ethnic. He stops looking cultural. He's wearing his stupid little top hat with his like fluffy little scarf and all that, right? And now he's looking the part of the Federation of American Natives, right? Bill the Butcher, all those guys. So he is in this process of abandoning his roots, abandoning what he came from in exchange for wealth and power. Right. Until the sheriff, old Irish guy, comes in and says, "There's one thing about your father. He loved his people." Right. So, and then that gets him back on his path. That gets him back on his karmic path. Right. You know, and I think we can say that that's not just Amsterdam's story. That is the story of American immigration, right? Where we come in and then it's, would you like power? Would you like privilege? Would you like to eat butter? Right. And then buy into that at the expense of losing our music, losing our language, losing our culture, all of that. Right. And then Leo, he does eventually reclaim his culture. And actually towards the end, he adopts a more Irish sounding accent as well. And then goes and kills Bill the Butcher, which I think is hopeful because in actual American history, what happens is people just drop their culture. Right. You know, I mean, yeah. And just go through the process of cultural erasure until the point where we just, you know, we're all just sort of like, I don't know, white bread or something, or just like dough, you know, it's like we shop at Walmart and we watch TV and, you know, but we're not like, I don't know any like old Italian Irish songs. You know? That's
also about building a culture as well, though. You know, that's basically the process of building American culture. You know, ask a European, ask, you know, someone from Japan or whatever. Are Americans different? Do we have our own culture? Yeah, of course. Sure. Buffets, hamburgers, Vegas, baseball. You know,
some
Sam's
of it feels
Club,
like
Costco.
The lack of culture, though. And I'm reluctant to say that like the absence of culture is itself a culture, right? You know, in some way, and it's more complex than one or the other. Like, is there an American culture? Like, yeah, for sure, right? You just named a bunch of things. At the same time, though, I don't think of like shopping at Sam's Club as like, this is who we are, America. You know, it's like there's I do, bro.
I love Sam's Club. No, this plays out with McGloin, right? McGloin was, and John C. Reilly.
Who was McGloin? That was the sheriff,
the bald guy.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
he's like the Uncle Tom figure.
The butcher's been shot. You know, he and John C. Reilly were with Priest Fallon back in the day. Yeah, they were on that good side. Right. And what happened? They got, you know, they went through this process of cultural erasure. Mm-hmm. They have these high positions, but still don't live with the respect. You know, they have to still live up to Bill the Butcher, deal with his insults. All that. Right. He's an Irish prick, you know, freaking, yeah. And what's interesting about New York as a discourse community, kind of going back to that, is you have to live by a certain moral and standard and set of rules within your discourse community. Yeah. So when you do that, you have to abandon cultural discourse community rules that you've always lived by, you know. And then it's interesting too. They're like, oh my God, she's a prim looking stargazer. And what is he say? He's like, were you calling me a windpipe? Because if you're calling me a whatever, you know, you have your own language even, you know, that was within the 5 points. There could be a whole entire language book written just on like their crazy sayings and stuff. And there was like that language. It is appropriate.
Oh, that'd be if there were a time machine, one of the most delightful things to do would just be to pop into different places and just listen to people talk.
Right.
Go sit at a bar in the 5 points in the 1860s and just listen to people.
Yeah.
That'd be wild.
Yeah. That'd be so crazy.
Who knows if we could even understand them? The accent would be totally insane.
Pickle grazer.
Exactly. Prim looking stargazer.
That's a prim looking stargazer right there. So the language is super interesting. The discourse of the 5 points itself.
I like that.
The immigration, obviously a huge story. Huge story to what we were saying about New York too, and just how why they stayed, why it is the way it is now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too that we have all these cultures in New York and everyone is together. There isn't 14 acres of land between every person.
Yeah.
So you have this, you have that. Another thing that was hit on in Gangs in New York was the Chinese culture as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was cool.
And they have that crazy cool scene where he's throwing knives at her, and then at the end, he's like, get these whatever out of here. Freaking boys fired up. This is a night for America. Just like,
Crazy. Yeah.
And it's a Chinese guy that helps Valen the first time to try to kill Bill the Butcher.
Oh, interesting.
So there's also sort of like connections going on within cultures, within races to preserve culture, race, family, structure, power, all that stuff. Right.
God, that's so fascinating. It's making me think of John Steinbeck because one of his greatest characters is in East of Eden, this guy Lee.
Yes.
And Lee is gotta talk to Dion about this.
Shout out to Dion.
Yeah,
he's so stoked.
Dion probably loves Lee. He's such a good character. And Lee is this super well educated, incredibly well read Chinese servant to this family, right?
Right.
And he puts on the Chinese accent, even though he can speak beautifully eloquent English, but he puts on this accent. And then when someone asks him, like, how come you keep that accent on when you're in public? And he has this whole thing where he's like, well, because people can't, essentially it would be too much cognitive dissonance for someone to see him in a Chinese body and then hear the eloquence of his speech, right? In which case they would react or get scared or get upset, and it could even be dangerous to them, get them lynched, things like that.
Right.
So by maintaining that accent and going around, everyone thinks he's like this dumb Chinese guy who can't speak English.
Right.
That's actually safer for him.
Right.
And better for him. And then when he does communicate in his real way with people who are close to him, that's like this gift of intimacy and gift of shared communication.
Right. No, this is great. I wrote about this in Cinematic Camouflage. That's exactly my point in the whole entire dissertation was one way in which racism was fought in Hollywood was through camouflage. And there's a really famous actor in the 20s, 30s. I can't remember what his name is right now, but he would go in to auditions acting like, the stereotypical, like, stupid black guy, slave, whatever, just, oh yes, sir, this and that.
Right.
And then he started getting parts and parts after parts. And then he gained more and more power. And then he was able to like really break into Hollywood. And all of a sudden, more black people were getting cast in movies and all this stuff, because he camouflaged himself in there.
Yeah.
And
so he was like wearing blackface essentially, right? As a black guy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right. I even talk about that. Right. And I think he even played a couple blackface parts, and
wow, that's so weird.
Yeah. But what he did is he infiltrated.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a spy in a movie or something.
Yeah.
You go into it acting like someone, and they want you to act.
Yeah.
And then boom, you burst racism from the inside out.
Yeah. There's something so bizarre about the 1930s, whatever, black actor wearing blackface.
Right.
It's just this strange layering and differentiation, like acknowledging that, like the whole, God, I forgot what they call it. Like, what'd they call that? Like, what was like this type of theater or whatever when they were doing blackface?
Oh, right. God, I don't know. It's
memory flooding. Dude.
Memory flooding. I wrote about it too. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Vaudeville. Yes.
But anyway, seeing vaudeville as this, like, that itself as this cultural creation, and then sort of like the knowledge and understanding of a black actor at the time being able to say, like, this is false. This is some kind of caricature.
Right.
And I'm going to engage with that caricature in order to find some kind of, get hired or whatever it is, and hopefully eventually be able to reveal my actual intelligence and all of that. Right. But there's something really weird.
That culture is presented in the movie too. They have, like, black dude dancing in the bar for Bill the Butcher all night, doing a jig, Yeah. And then McGloin, freaking super racist, There and then of course all the lynchings that happened during that Civil War riots, and then they had to freaking bomb the city.
Yeah,
the Navy.
Yeah,
absolutely insane.
It's totally insane. Yeah,
that's cultural chaos. Yeah, and we think that at times we think that we live in, like, the worst political landscape. Man, that must have been insane back then. Just like we said, 2 wars had already passed. Civil War is about to start.
Yeah.
It's been chaos for the first freaking 80 years of the nation,
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. And New York too, just like, because it is a place of constant change. I mean, Boston, Fenway Park has been there for like 120 years or whatever it's been,
1912 or something like that.
Yeah, and then Yankee Stadium is rebuilt every like 15 months,
Right.
So New York, just like, that's what it does. It just constantly is turning over. And the neighborhood where my dad grew up in, well, first they were in the Bronx, Irish neighborhood in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And then that neighborhood became black, and then they were in Queens. And then that was an Irish working class neighborhood for years and years. And then in the 90s, I remember going to visit my grandma, and it was becoming more Korean. Right. And these days, I don't know, maybe it turned hands again. Maybe it's like Venezuelan or something. I have no idea. But at least last time I was there, it was like very Korean.
Yeah.
And that won't last too long, because that's just what New York is. It just is constantly turning over.
Yeah.
So if someone gets too attached to it being like, this was the Irish neighborhood, the Irish pub used to be right there, and it's just like, cool, we can feel nostalgia for that and appreciation, but it's just like, New York's not a place to go hold on to.
Also,
to that kind of nostalgia.
Also, the New York politic is ever evolving, always sort of cutting edge. You go from like Rudy Giuliani,
right,
to another Cuomo.
Yeah.
Which is like this royal American family line in New York. And then you go to...
There's Mamdani.
Right? Yeah. So it's always like, this ever-evolving sort of thing.
Yeah.
Let me look up the movie real quick.
Did you ever read The Winter of Our Discontent? Another Steinbeck?
I don't know. I don't think so. No.
It's really good, but just briefly with that one, it takes place in Sag Harbor on the eastern Long Island. And that's another fascinating one for me, because I'm Irish New York and Italian New York. That's my descent. And in this one, it's like the Italians taking over, and it's this whole tension between this like earlier WASP family that descends from like their family owned a whaling ship or something like 100 years before. And like, that's how the family's been there. But now they're all pissed off because the dude's just working in like a grocery store, because that's just like what's available now, for white people. He's all pissed off.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that's an Italian guy who owns the grocery store, and that makes him even more mad because now it's like the foreigners who came in and are like, and it's just like the culture and the ethnicity and all of that, and just how those clash is just fascinating.
Right. Everdeen was Cameron Diaz's name, Miss Everdeen. Jenny Everdeen.
Jenny. Oh yeah, Jenny. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Jenny Everdeen.
Interesting too, because this movie released in 2002.
Yeah.
But the ending of the film is probably one of the last cinematic shots of the Twin Towers.
Right.
So, you know, just like crazy evolution right there. And thinking about, we wanted to have a brief discussion about when it came out. What is the movie saying about America in 2002?
Exactly. Yeah.
Were we very much so embodying the 5 points within our own nation? Was there a Bill the Butcher freaking George Bush, you know?
Yeah.
Was there a Tammany where our politics really messed up? Was there like crazy racism still going on? You know? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to think of Donald Trump, and I don't mean to bring him up as like, you know, everyone's constantly obsessed with the guy. I think it's actually important to talk about him as this later 20th century and 21st century iteration of the New York
and he's a
housing mogul.
Right.
The New York housing mogul, the New York politician.
Yeah.
Because you do have, in a lot of ways, Trump is Bill the Butcher, you know,
right.
Like at least in terms of the worldview and the rhetoric and the discourse and all of that, you know.
Sure.
So there's something there, you know, and I do think of, I don't know, 2002 and yeah, Trump at the time, I think, was still this kind of big New York media figure and stuff like that.
Right.
So not political yet, but
yeah, I agree with all that. And that this was happening back in 2002. And I remember too, headlines, I was still pretty young, but still though, I remember like what the heck was going on. Like, Bush was very much like a Bill the Butcher character.
Yeah.
And he was literally like, you know, legalized torture so we could torture people from the Middle East.
Definitely.
And then I remember watching and hearing in documentaries, people like Middle Eastern people were getting crazy hatred in the 2002.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like I would slit every one of their throats if I had the chance, if I had the bullets, you know, freaking Bill the Butcher, like throwing rocks at the Irish coming off the boats, you know. Right. That's how it was. You lived in New York, I'm sure, even if we got John on the line, you know, there was probably crazy hate crime around like Middle Eastern people back in 2002, you know?
Yeah, I do remember like, you know, I was a kid. So.
And wanting to start war, you know?
Yeah. No, I do remember just like a sense of like discomfort, you know, there's definitely like a distrust and a discomfort.
Right.
Muslim people.
Yeah.
There was, I do remember American flags everywhere.
Right.
Every single house had an American flag.
Man, now we're getting somewhere here. Yeah.
Right. And then I'm thinking of Bill the Butcher draped in the American flag after he was shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what's happening in this movie is it's an exaggeration of patriotism.
Right.
And that's what was happening in 2002.
Interesting.
They say after 9/11 was one of the only times in American history where everyone united.
Which is beautiful. And it'd be cool if we could do that without having to unite against, you know, the Middle East or whatever.
Sure.
Like if we could just unite generally, just be like, we all have the same goals. Everyone wants to feel happy and safe.
There's issues with unification because not everyone was unified to the ideal standard of America, Coors Light drinking, you know, America, which were like the Middle Easterns were left out. Immigration, you know, has always been a huge topic, you know, and unification causes division oftentimes. So the Federation of Natives, Bill the Butcher and all that, we're Americans, you know, I'm gonna die a true American freaking. And that's how the culture was in 2002.
Is there an
I'm going to die an American, you know?
Yeah. Is there an insecurity in Bill the Butcher about his Americanness?
Most insecure man alive, you know?
Right. It must be, because his whole claim to fame was that, like, I think it was his father or grandfather. I think his father died in the War of 1812.
Right.
He says that at some point. And so that means his family, I guess, well, he's white skinned in America, and it's the 1860s, which means his family couldn't have been there for more than a couple of 100 years at most.
Right.
And then especially because he's in the 5 Points, his family definitely wasn't there that long, right?
Right.
Because if you were descended from like the Pilgrims or something, like way early on,
right,
and your family's European descent been in America since, you know, the 1600s or something like that, they probably have some sort of like, you know, this like WASP sort of wealth kind of thing going on,
right,
you know, and they've
right.
been there for a while. Bill the Butcher, he's literally in the 5 Points, like beating people and killing people, and he's trained as a butcher. Like it's a working class thing, right? So he's not of super wealthy descent. So he's probably pretty new in America, his family, right? So, I mean, he's not that far off from being an immigrant himself.
Sure.
So I imagine there's this deep, deep, deep insecurity about his legitimacy in this country.
Right. Well, he is one of the first, you know, probably bands of people that were able to really take claim and be like, all right, we're, you know, X amount of years into this country. My father died for the country, you know, came in on a boat, whatever. My great grandfather.
Yeah.
If it's anybody's, it's mine.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
But you're realizing that only 2 generations ago, Bill the Butcher's great grandfather was, you know,
Dutch or something,
Scottish
right?
or something like that, you know? Yeah. So there's also, and he's very insecure about his social standing. And that's why he's always having to say, I own this place. This is mine. That's mine.
Right.
You don't have to say it if everybody already knows it. You know, he's constantly having to self-reassure. And then he makes his bones through crime too.
Yeah.
You know, he's getting paid through all his little minions, you know, all the way around.
Yeah. Which is a lower class thing to do. He's not a Tammany, right? He's not.
Right.
Yeah. So I got 2 questions. One is, when does someone or their descendants become American? And we have birthright citizenship here, so you can say, well, you're born here, so you're American.
Sure.
But maybe more so culturally or something like that. When does someone actually become American?
Right.
What makes someone American? Because in our country, it is unusual.
Right.
Being a country of immigrants for the most part.
Sure.
When does someone become American? And then my other question after that is about Americana and Americana culture, and when did Americana start? When did it end, if it did end at all?
Right. What was the first part of the question?
When do we become American?
When do we become American? Yeah. Is it when you first start dreaming of wanting to become American? Does it happen at that moment?
American dream?
When you start the American dream, then you get onto the boat.
Yeah.
You cross the sea.
Interesting.
You know,
like already
from
American
the beginning, you're already American at heart, you know, inside. Because what was initially the American dream before the like nuclear family of the 60s, well, it was anything that you wanted it to be. That's what the New World offered. Was being able to go and live under your own religion, work for yourself, have property, have land, build a family that you wanted to build, whatever. It was a land of, you know, new opportunity, essentially.
Yeah.
So then Is it at the beginning of the American dream? Or is it after when you first arrive, right? That you're finally American? Is it more a sort of objective thing where you buy property, then that makes you American? Or you have kids, generations? Is it time that allows you to become an American?
According to Bill the Butcher, it's sacrifice. Right? His grandfather, or father, whoever it was, sacrificed his life.
Right.
To fight for the country.
Yeah.
So therefore he is American.
Right.
So it's a sacrifice of bodies.
Yeah.
And Bill the Butcher is this very embodied character. Everything comes back to the body, to the meat and bone of the body.
Yes.
Right. So it's this sacrifice of the body itself.
Right.
Dying for American soil, its land, and its body.
Right.
And sacrifice.
But then how would he feel about, Buffalo Soldiers or whatever in Civil War? Would a guy like that who lived on that standard, would he then start accepting Black culture,
right?
Irish culture,
right? Yeah, because that's the thing, because I'm thinking of someone I know who's of Chinese descent, and her family's been here for 200 years, right? My family's only been here for, I don't know, I think 60 years or something, right. 70, 80, whatever it was. But if she and I stood side by side, and then you asked depends on who you're talking to, but I could imagine asking someone which one of us is American or more American or has been here longer. Right. They'd probably look at me. Sure. Sure. Just being not Chinese looking. Right. So yeah, even though, it's like her family's been here for 200 years, there's probably been sacrifices involved in all of that, but I'm still perceived as more American. Right. Just because of my appearance. Right. Right. So there's also just appearance. Sure. To your point about Buffalo Soldiers, I don't know if Bill the Butcher would accept a Black Civil War veteran. Sure. Yeah, if I went to the South, they'd be like, "Get the hell out of here, Beaner!" What the, Right. Not necessarily. Oh, this guy's has been here for 11 generations. Yeah, exactly. Since Native Americans. Right. Since the conquistadors. Yeah. Whereas this dude from Alabama or whatever, his family's only been here for whatever, a few generations, 2-3 generations. And again, there's that insecurity. And then that's how racism is built too, is, the Aryan nation, whatever. We're Germans, we're white, we have blonde hair, we have blue eyes. It doesn't matter how long you've been here, how much you sacrificed, how many people went to war for us. If you're not white, blonde hair, blue eyes, you're not part of the Aryan nation, Right. Same with in America. That's why racism was huge. We fucking loved the slave trade back in the day, the Civil War, by God, because power is built through racism. So unless you look like Bill the Butcher, freaking tall, lanky white guy, you're not necessarily, and speak as well. Speech is a good, because if you have the Irish accent, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it's very complicated because then, once he finds out Amsterdam's Irish, Prince Valen, this and that, then the racism kicks in, so it's a multi-layered thing. It's not necessarily just one thing. It's not necessarily just aesthetics, though it is very big part of the picture. Do you feel American? Oh my God. You could break that down however you want. Right. It's a multifaceted question. When I was born, an eagle flew by, freaking. Yes, absolutely. Very American. Yeah. Like if we got invaded or something like that, I would seriously consider if the cause was righteous, aliens, invasion, or whatever. This is America, baby. This is like, baseball, NFL, freaking, Costco, hot dogs. I don't know. I'm just like, and we've also built lots of bad things, but also the country is based on lots of civil rights, and we're able to have our own religions and all this. Of course all this is problematic, obviously, but still though,
when you're born and raised in a country and live by ideals, you always it becomes who you are. I mean, back to Game of Thrones. You're born in a Tully, or you're born a Lannister.
Yeah.
Or you're born a Stark. You're going to be Winterborn. You're going to have a connection with wolves. You're going to have connections with dragons if you're a Targaryen, you know. You're going to have connections with baseball and fucking Eagles if you're like born in America.
Yeah.
We still kind of live under those banners, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were born during Reagan, right?
87.
Yeah, I believe that was during that was during Reagan.
My boy.
Or HW.
Maybe it was HW.
No, HW would have been elected in like a year later or something.
Right.
Anyway, I feel like the 80s was a very like American pride kind of time.
Right.
Maybe because of the Soviet scare, you know?
Senior.
Yeah.
Bush.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to hit on, which we were talking about, is the realm of the fatherless, the 5 points,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with immigration. People die, you lose family, whatever.
Yeah.
It also happens in war, in revolution, you know.
Yeah.
Bill obviously doesn't have a father, probably never did. Amsterdam's dad was killed before his eyes.
Yeah.
You know, you name it, none of the characters are necessarily connected by a father figure.
Yeah.
So what happens then? How does that dictate this sort of, you know, madness of the fatherless, the parentless, even, you know, lack of the mother too? We see Bill giving steak to, you know, she's not really my mother, you know.
Oh, interesting.
and giving out to the community still too, but it's chaos. It's what's that book? Lord of the Flies, right? It's adults, an adult version of Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Where you have a bunch of parentless fucking adults going mad. The realm of the fatherless.
Yeah. Right.
The 5 points.
Yeah, it's definitely there because no one has a father.
Oh, and then what happens is Amsterdam finds father figures throughout it too, as does Bill. The butcher kind of saw Valen as a father figure. Yeah. Still gave him his praise, living by this tradition. You know, the one person he only remembered that he ever killed, you know, has a memorial to him in the bar. Right. Amsterdam almost becomes like the son of, in fact,
is becoming.
Butcher says, you know, I never had a son, you know, with the American flag draped over him, essentially saying, I see you as a son, you know? Yeah.
Adoption. America adopting the foreigner, right?
Yeah.
God, that's so interesting. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with the list that you sent me.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you get like a really good thought, just want to stop it.
Sure.
So we got fathers, fatherless. We got Catholicism, spirituality. The Body, Hamlet.
Oh, yeah. All right, hang on. Okay. All right, so there's a James Joyce trope in here with the fatherless, because in Ulysses, it's Leopold Bloom, right? And then who's kind of a foreigner, and then you have Stephen Dedalus, who's, I think, father is around but is absent. He's a complete drunk. Yeah. And then Leopold Bloom and Stephen Dedalus have this whole like father-son adopted kind of thing going on. You know, so you see that in Gangs of New York. Hamlet as well, for sure. The realm of the fatherless, right? And it is a Hamlet story because you have Amsterdam.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, avenging the father, right? Which is, that's all Hamlet is.
Right.
You know, so it's definitely there. So what is the...
And he's seeking revenge for his father as well. Hamlet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. What's the fixation on fathers here? What is this?
Right.
Because mothers don't really come up. You could say none of them have mothers either, right? Because I think Amsterdam, Leo does not have a mother figure in that movie. Right. Neither does Bill the Butcher. Neither does Valen. None of them have mother figures. Right. Actually, we could talk about that too, because all the women every single woman in that movie just about is a prostitute.
Right.
Is there any female characters who are not prostitutes? You have the old lady that Bill the Butcher is giving steak to, and all he says is, "That's not my mother," and then gives her steak and she sends off. Right.
She was kind of like a village elder, you know, the old American woman who's, you know,
I wouldn't even give her that.
5 points.
She just shows up for 2 seconds just to get a steak because she's starving.
Sure. But, you know, conceptualizing who the role is. But yeah, I mean, there's the ideal of the prostitute, but it's also interesting because Hamlet, he's not revenging his mother.
No.
In these storylines, it's very much emphasized on the father.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Prince Valen Amsterdam's not avenging his mother.
None of them have mothers, but they're not hung up about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not hung up about it. Yeah. Well, the fixation is on the father.
Yeah, it's the patrilineal
right
line, right? So,
and what is the role of the father? The role of the father is to teach the son how to live, how to act by a moral code, how to be, you know, someone better in the village, within the village.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that influence, or you have a negative one, well, then that's going to cause disruption in the masculinity, healthy masculinity evolution of the son, you know?
Yeah. And we track our names patrilineally, right? We don't do it matrilineally. And part of the reason for that is because when a child is born to a mother, we know who the mother is because pretty obvious, right?
Right.
Whereas there is, again, an insecurity, perhaps, about the father's legitimacy as father, right? Because when a child is born, you know who the mother is. That's implicit. And it is possible that we don't know who the father is, right? And that's just part of how human biology works. So that's part of why we have the patrilineal namesake, is for the sake of reassurance that this is in fact the child of this man.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So there's an insecurity there as well.
Right.
You know, where do I come from?
Sure. Am I a bastard?
Am I Jon Snow? Am I Jon Snow? Right.
Right.
So that's there very often in like a very subtle way, you know?
Sure.
And like, you know, he can look like the father, all that kind of stuff, but just that's why that namesake is there. That's why that patrilineal thing is there.
Sure.
So I wonder, do you think that, I don't know, shapes this in any kind of way? This kind of insecurity around the father?
It could. It could, definitely. Yeah. Same thing with the racism, you know, it's multi-layered, the fatherless, you know, and its influence, whether it be through genetic line, whether it be through rights, whether it be through a nurturing influence, you know, throughout the life of the story. And they're all basically orphans, you know. Butcher's an orphan. Amsterdam's an orphan. That's how they relate to each other.
Yeah.
You know, so they've had to sort of build their own line. Yeah. And that's one of the interesting things about Bill is he doesn't come from necessarily, like you're saying, the descendants of the best per se, but he built himself his own line, his own sort of shield, you know. Right. And his own banner that he's able to fly under with lots of power, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're orphaned not just of their parents, they're orphaned of their countries.
Right.
They're orphaned of their cultures. They're really existential orphans. They're babies in the desert. You know?
Sure. And they're all clinging to a form of Christianity.
Right.
Just to touch on the Catholicism a little bit. Well, you're going to get it with Scorsese, but, you know, I liked you know, he caused Satan out of paradise. I like their, Amsterdam and the narration quotes some scriptures. He throws away the Bible, but then lives sort of for, this righteous cause in a way. And then you have Bill actually says the damn Catholics, you know, whatever, because there's the vision of like the American church and the European church via Catholicism and Irish, you know, just super interesting symbology throughout it all. Then one thing we mentioned too is Amsterdam, sort of the prodigal son. He leaves the Irish culture, gets enveloped in partying and power and money with Bill the Butcher and praise and social credits.
Yeah.
And then after the sheriff talks to him, he goes back to what he's, you know, the truth, goes back to the light, goes back to his righteous cause, which is fucking avenging his father's death. You know?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. And then the priest, like, you know, smacking McGloin with the Bible. Love the priest figure in there. It's just like, it's super interesting, standing with the Irish, you know. But then, of course, there's probably the American priest standing with the natives. And you just constantly have this like cultures filled with not only money, immigration, histories, but also religion. You know? Yeah.
I've been thinking too during this conversation, Irish culture in Ireland today in 2026, which I know nothing about. And I'm just curious, you know, if you go to Ireland in this case, is it like a really rich Irish culture still? Are there people our age hanging out in the pub playing fiddle music for each other and stuff, and like wearing, you know, these like wool hats and you know, like, does that exist, or are people our age like sitting around watching Netflix, you know, and smoking weed, and you know,
that's what it is. That's more what it is, because, you know, people are probably like, I wonder, you know, in Ireland, you know, yada to yada, are thinking that wonder if Americans still like, you know, play the fiddle and do jigs and you know,
is it I guess what I'm asking is how much of, you know, there's been this whole conversation about cultural erasure, right? And how much of that culture, how much of the idea of cultural erasure is based on the illusion of a pure culture?
Interesting.
Right? Or is it when people come here that then culture becomes really important, because now we're in a new land and we need something familiar to hold on to.
Right.
You know, or I'm thinking of like, take Native American culture and cultural preservation against genocide and all of that stuff. Like, if genocide weren't a threat or hadn't been a threat, then maybe cultural preservation wouldn't be so important. Right. Or I'm thinking of like, I asked a Dutch guy once, I met this Dutch guy from the Netherlands. I was like, your family's probably been, you know, in the Netherlands for forever, right? And he was like, oh yeah, since like caveman times, like we've just been in the Netherlands. And I was like, do you guys think of yourselves as like indigenous to the Netherlands? And do you have all these like cultural practices for passed down thousands of years? And he was like, no, not really. No, we just, no, that's not really, that's just not part of how we identify, you know. It's just kind of like, that was ancient times and that was now. And we smoke weed and watch movies and whatever. And I was like, but those cultures of the Netherlands were never threatened, to my knowledge, were never threatened with like genocide or like tons of immigrants coming in or whatever. So this like cultural preservation and cultural purity just didn't matter as much to them. So it wasn't as threatening to be like, yeah, we're going to stop like banging those drums, or we're going to like go watch a movie, you know? Is this making sense what I'm trying to say?
So I don't think it's necessarily it not meaning anything to them or as much to them. Like, Native Americans still very much have their traditions. New Mexicans do, you know, whatever, what have you. Go down the list of whatever. You know, we think about our history, etc. I think what happens is is it's only a violation. It's only erasure. It's only, you know, something that it can be construed as bad or negative when a culture is not able to naturally evolve on its own. And that's how cultures are created in the first place. It's a community of people deciding on traditions and foods and stuff that they want to have. Yeah. And a lot of that's, you know, farming, whatever, geography, etc. But it's very much, you know, sort of culture that, or it's very much the people that are deciding what builds a culture within a community, right? Yeah. So that being said, it's not one person or one group of people that were able to decide for the rest of time, this is going to be the culture. No, it's the people and their descendants that are able to naturally evolve their culture. Yeah. Right. So we want to have Broadway, but we also want to, you know, have Spanish culture and have, you know, whatever, flamenco dancing and all this stuff. Instead of the Spanish invaded America, they burnt Broadway, and everyone, the only entertainment now is like flamenco dancing and bullfighting or whatever, you know? Right. And then if that happens, then we're going to be like, what the fuck? No, like bring back baseball. What are you talking about? Now, all of a sudden, baseball becomes super important. Yeah. You're erasing my culture.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Baseball is naturally kind of dying out because we're being able to naturally evolve as the American herd to evolve our culture. Yeah. You know,
like it seems like when a culture is threatened with eradication, that's when that culture actually strengthens, right, and deepens its roots.
Exactly.
Right. Because, take the Native American example. That culture is deeply, deeply, deeply threatened. So preserving that, celebrating that culture is important for that group of people. Right. But then you take the Dutch and it's just like, our culture was never threatened. So it just naturally kind of phased out.
Right. Right.
Or the Irish thing, too, the like playing a fiddle in an Irish pub kind of thing, whatever. Like Irish culture became such a image, you know, this really strong thing, partly because of this diaspora, because people traveling all over the world and immigrating, because British colonization that wanted to wipe them out. So it actually strengthened that sense of culture.
And then you think of, that makes me think of the global culture and how we're all interconnected, and how individual cultures like America, New Mexico, Japan, Spain, whatever, they all kind of do then relate, and there's a global spanning culture. So if we take 1860s or whatever, well, now we start getting chariots, we start getting, you know, steam engines, whatever the case. Well, then that's going to spread throughout, you know, Europe, throughout America, throughout Asia. Yeah. And then all of a sudden everyone has, you know, a freaking fire system, like the firemen fighting in the streets. And everybody has, like, you know, whatever is wearing this certain thing, or everybody has this certain thing within their house. Yeah. Now we look at that nowadays, the internet is created. Well, it's not just America who's watching TikTok. TikTok's not even American. It's Chinese. You know, this is part of a global culture. Right. Every single person is online now. Yeah. So this influences then the micro cultures. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we have sort of, you know, microcosms within the larger global culture. Yeah. But does that mean everything's getting erased? No. One of the funniest guys I follow on Instagram, love him, he's hilarious. He does like this, you know, he's a Native American dude from like Arizona or whatever. Does the most hilarious like cultural jokes, like Native American jokes. It's hilarious, but it's become part of like the ether, along with, you know, you can name literally millions of other things. Yeah. But that's not to say that, oh my God, I've never seen like me, Hispanic dude. I haven't seen like a Mexican like comedian in a long time that like makes fun of like my mom calling me too much, you know. No, that's there, like we don't lose that. We're just globally evolving, and our culture is globally evolved. Like drum circles and freaking wearing like funny snow hats and stuff. Well, guess what? A heater was invented. Not everybody needs to wear crazy hats anymore. Yeah. And now a keyboard was invented, and like that culture found out about, YouTube and whatever the case. The guitar, the electric guitar came out, and then everybody anyways, rambling now, but you get the point.
I'm thinking just like flamenco, you mentioned that's another one that became stronger because it was coming out of a culture of resistance.
Right.
Because it was all like these lower class gypsy people that were being pushed from town to town because no one wanted them, who developed flamenco music.
Johnny Depp, yeah.
Yeah, and now if you go to Spain, it's like this big tourist thing that like there's flamenco music in every town.
Right.
Even though historically those towns have been like, get that fucking flamenco music out of here.
Sure.
Goddamn foreigners,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's something weird there. And I wonder where we're moving with it. Like Alan Moore, the V for Vendetta guy.
Nice. I was talking about him this morning.
Oh, cool.
How weird.
Nice. Synchronicity.
Yeah. Told Dion he could become the next Alan Moore.
But he's got this thing where he says culture he uses like phases of matter, where he says culture was a solid, things were very slow and nothing changed that much for like thousands of years. And then it became a liquid where you're seeing things change a little more rapidly. You get the printing press, and not long after that, you're getting all this stuff, rapid change. And then he goes, now it's a gas, like it's just moving so fast. Right. The tech, the culture, everything is just changing.
Oh my God, yes,
so fast.
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, what's after gas? It's actually plasma, which is strange. And plasma is like just this like lightning. I mean, lightning is plasma. So what's that? Are we already in that where it's just like you can't hold on to anything?
Right.
Everything is just constantly new. There is no tradition or, and whether or not that's bad or good, who knows? But that just seems to be the case. And will things slow back down?
Right.
Does it reach a breaking point where we kind of climax and then it's like starts to slow back down again?
Sure. I don't know. I think it just keeps evolving, know. And what I like about this discussion is this is the story of gangs in New York.
Right.
Bill the Butcher's always living by the ancient traditions of warfare.
Yeah.
No one will touch him, and just like he's always living by this old standard.
Right.
And he's against Lincoln. He's against, civil rights and all this stuff. He's very much, I think someone even calls him, he's a relic of his own, whatever. He's this traditionalist,
Right.
And what Amsterdam and the Irish, they're representing change, even Tammany, even though his intentions are corrupt.
Yeah.
He's still very much still there, like serving up bread and soup to all the immigrants and stuff like that. He's embracing change. He even tells Bill, you got to embrace change, Bill, or else, whatever. And love Tammany. But it's a story of change. And then at the end of the movie, we get this changing evolution of the New York landscape.
Right.
So this is a very much Gangs in New York is a commentary on the change of culture. And how painful that can be sometimes.
Right.
And how, going through this evolutionary process where we have to challenge our ideologies, our moralities, our spiritualities in order to embrace anew. It's scary because then some things are lost. That's the way it goes. Erasure. Yeah. But then we fight for our cultural preservation too. And they become staples. They become roots, like you're saying.
Right.
It's actually kind of a beautiful thing in the long run. And then we get things like theater. Theater's not the most famous thing anymore in American culture, but it's still very much there. Jared to Jared's doing podcasts on Shakespeare still, We're free. It's there. Ballet's there. Whatever the case, you name these sort of, even reading nowadays is becoming an old cultural tradition of humanity, weird, But things are changed. What side are you going to be on? Are you going to be on Bill the Butcher's side? who's trying to preserve sort of this American tradition, or are you going to be on the side of evolution, of immigration, change, learning things about other cultures, whatever,
Yeah, and yet nothing changes because there's also the conflicts remain the same, but they just change shape, right? So Bill the Butcher in that way, what doesn't change, the body doesn't change,
right?
Generally, right? I mean, maybe in a superficial way, but all our organs have not changed for, I think, at least 10,000 years.
Right.
So it's like our bodies don't change and he's so embodied. Violence doesn't change. Experience of violence doesn't really change. I mean, maybe the weapons we use change, but still bodies being exploded doesn't really change. Right. Conflict between the rich and the poor doesn't change. Inequality, that doesn't change. There's evidence that there's vast inequality in Chaco Canyon, and that's part of why that society collapsed.
Yeah.
So, and I think it paints that beautifully, where it's like you have the class, the race, just all of these conflicts happening, and it's like, and I think the message is like, that's the consistent. It's like, how many Bill the Butchers have there been? And Bill the Butcher is deluded because he's like trying to hold on to this tradition, but he's actually just, his tradition is violence. He's actually enacting out his tradition.
Oh, right? Nice. Yeah.
He thinks his tradition
in
is
our list here,
America.
In our list here, you had
violence.
Something. Let me see. How would you name it? Let's see. Spirituality of violence.
Yeah. He's fulfilling some kind of role there.
Right.
And if you look at just the history of America too, and I think the movie's making this point, it's like, okay, let's work backwards from the Civil War, and actually keeping in mind that the Twin Towers were just hit by planes and we're going to war with Iraq. That's the context in which the movie was made. So backtracking from there, the movie takes place in the Civil War. They have references to the War of 1812, which was only 50 years before that. 40 years. I think 40 years before that would have been the Revolutionary War. Before that, there would have been constant skirmishes and things like that between natives and settlers.
Sure.
Right. So you can take the map of this movie and then just plug in different things and set it in different time periods. So you could take Gangs of New York and then set it during like the early 1600s or whatever, when New York was first being settled, or the 1500s, whatever it was, and make the conflict between
crazy Mormon battles or whatever.
Native Americans and the European settlers coming in, and it could be the same movie in a lot of ways.
Sure.
You could do, or even before that, go back even further, like I'm thinking of New Mexico now, where there is this like perception of history that's false, that things were relatively peaceful before European contact and all of that, which is just not true at all. I mean, historically, I think it was Pueblo people from north of here were coming down and essentially invading New Mexico from up near Colorado and slaughtering the shit out of people and trying to take over this land, so it's like,
I think the Apache were known for like the most brutal warriors, like skilled warrior. They're like the Spartans back then.
Exactly. So it's just like, take that narrative of fighting for land and preserving tradition and culture and all of that and inequality, and you could just plug it into any place in the world at any time period and it still fits. So that's the thing that doesn't change.
On behalf of the Jareds, thank you for listening. Follow, rate, and tell your friends. The Jareds will be back next time. And always remember, if you're not strong, you'd better be smart. Farewell.